It's December, the lights are up, the air smells like pine and wood smoke, and somewhere far beyond the warmth of your living room, something old is walking through the snow. Not every visitor of the season wears red. Some wear horns, some carry bells, and some exist only in the half light between good intentions and bad behavior. Tonight we're talking about Krampus, the shadow that follows Christmas, the folklore figure who arrives not to reward, but to remind. This isn't a story about cruelty. It's a story about winter, fear, and why humanity has always told darker tales during the brightest holiday of the year. Welcome back to the Dark Folio. I'm May, and tonight, let's step into the snow. Now, before we talk about Krampus, we need to talk about winter. Not the cozy version, not the twinkling lights and the warm drinks, the winter that we also enjoy where we snuggle down and get a hot cocoa and watch some Hallmark Christmas movies with our fuzzy socks. Not that type of winter. We're talking about the old winter. For most of human history, winter was dangerous. Food ran low, days were short, cold was unforgiving, and darkness came early, and it stayed. Winter wasn't festive. It was something you had to survive. And when humans face long stretches of darkness, they tell stories. Stories to explain fear, reminder to behave, to keep in order, to make sense of the unknown. And that's where figures like Krampus are born. Not as monsters for entertainment, but as symbols. Now, who or what is Krampus? Well, Krampus comes from Alpine folklore, primarily in regions that are now Austria, Germany, and surrounding areas. His name likely comes from an old German word meaning claw, and his appearance is, let's use the word unforgettable. He's described as tall and imposing, covered in dark fur, with horns like a goat or a ram, long claws and a lolling tongue, and heavy bells hanging from his waist. But here's something important. In the earliest stories, Krampus doesn't attack children. He doesn't burst into homes. He doesn't act without reason. Instead, he appears. He rattles his chains. His bells ring through the night. And that sound alone is meant to be enough. Krampus is a warning. Krampus is almost never alone. He travels with St. Nicholas. Did you know that? The kindly figure who rewards good behavior. Together, they represent balance. Nicholas brings gifts. Krampus brings reminders. Light and shadow, reward and consequence. In old traditions, children weren't threatened with harm. They were reminded that their actions mattered, that kindness was noted, and that mischief had echoes. Krampus might leave coal or a bundle of twigs called ruten, symbolic but not violent. It wasn't about fear, it was about order. Long before Christianity reached the Alps, people had already believed in winter spirits. Wild men, horned figures, guardians of forests and seasons. When Christianity spread, many of these older figures didn't disappear. They just morphed. They changed. Krampus likely evolved from pre-Christian nature spirits, symbols of winter's harshness, chaos, and survival. Instead of erasing them, new traditions folded them in. Krampus became the shadow that made St. Nicholas shine brighter. Every year on December 5th, something remarkable happens in Alpine towns. It's called, and forgive me if I butcher this, I'm doing the best this country girl can do, Krampusnacht. People dress in elaborate Krampus masks, some terrifying, some artistic, all deeply traditional. They wear fur, they carry bells, they move through the streets in groups. But here's the key detail. Krampusnacht isn't about scaring children, it's about scaring away evil. Noise drives out bad spirits. Masks confuse harmful forces, and the community comes together to face the darkness together. It's a ritual as old as winter itself. Krampus unsettles us because he breaks the illusion. Christmas is perfect. Krampus reminds us that humans aren't. But that reminder can be comforting because it says you don't have to be perfect, you just have to try. Krampus isn't watching for mistakes, he's watching for patterns. Are you learning? Are you growing? Are you kinder today than you were yesterday? If so, you will never hear his bells. In modern pop culture, Krampus is often portrayed as violent, monstrous, and cruel. That version misses the point. The folklore Krampus doesn't punish out of malice. He exists because humans needed a way to talk about consequences without cruelty. He's the echo of winter wisdom. Actions ripple, choices matter, darkness exists, but it doesn't rule. Here's the quiet truth beneath the horns. Krampus isn't there for children. He's there for adults. He reflects our fear of failing each other, our worry that we're losing kindness, our awareness that comfort can make us forget gratitude. Krampus appears when we stop paying attention, and he disappears when we remember who we want to be. There's an old tale told in Alpine villages. On a snowy evening, a child hears bells outside their home. They freeze. They listen. Nothing happens. No knocking, no breaking in, just the sound fading into the trees. The next morning, the child helps without being asked. He speaks gently. He shares what he has, not out of fear, out of understanding. That's the power of a story told at the right time. In a world full of noise, Krampus is subtle. He doesn't shout. He doesn't chase. He doesn't demand attention. He simply reminds us, darkness exists, but it doesn't have to win. Winter passes, light returns, and kindness, chosen freely, is the strongest magic of all. So, if you ever hear bells in the distance on a cold December night, don't panic. It may just be the echo of an old story, one meant to guide, not to frighten, a shadow that exists only to make the light feel warmer. There are so many stories of Krampus in today's pop culture. There are scary stories, scary pictures, scary stickers, and scary movies about Krampus. Krampus that is cruel to children. But I wanted to throw it out there that not all of the Krampus stories are about the cruelty. They did start out malevolent, about warnings. So thank you for spending part of your winter night with me. If you enjoyed tonight's episode, be sure to follow the Dark Folio for more stories drawn from folklore, history, supernatural, the quiet spaces between belief and imagination. Leave a review, share the show, and I'll see you next time, right here in the dark.